What is going on, YouTube people? Neo Cards and Comics here today for another edition of the weekly sports card market update. It has been a wild and crazy week in both the sports card world and in my own little world. Just a lot of family nonsense, health nonsense, all sorts of crazy stuff going on this past week. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and dive in. We've got Fanatics Fest news, PSA doing shenanigans, debut patch bounties, prices going up and down. We'll look at all that stuff in Market Movers. Topps Chrome update, hobby and jumbo boxes flying off shelves, prices going crazy on those. Let's go ahead and dive in. But before we do, shout out to today's video sponsor and sponsor of the weekly sports card market update, our friends over at comc.com. Your home for buying and selling all sorts of cards, sports, non-sports, Marvel cards, Star Trek, Star Wars, sketch cards. They even got comic books on there, and they are in full gear for their Black Friday event. If you are a seller over there, you could take advantage of seller promotions. If you're a buyer over there, they have some buyer promotions. Depending on how much you spend, you could get some money back in credit and also some shipping credit potentially. You could check out the full details over on the ComC blog. Go give them a whirl if you're not using them. I just had a bunch of stuff shipped home from them. Some stuff for a set that I was working on. To finish that off, we'll do a video on that sometime in the future when things calm down a little bit. And some other fun stuff for the PC. First up this week, missed this one. I honestly probably would have done a quick hit video on this, but just other stuff happened and I just never got around to it. We're going to talk a lot about Topps Chrome update and grading, but let's knock this one out really quickly. SGC is running a $10 special for any Topps Chrome update that you send in. $10 per card, 5 to 10 day turnaround time. So if you're just looking to get it back quick and flip it, get a quick opinion on it for $10, I mean, you almost can't beat that as a pre-grade service if you really think about it. If you're on the fence on whether you want to send something off to PSA or not, obviously, you know, the SGC grade doesn't guarantee anything, but it at least gives you an idea. If you're not 100% sure on something, you could send it their way. I'm going to guess they get a decent amount of cards based off of this little special. And we had other SGC news. I didn't mention it at the top with the ComC stuff, but SGC will be rolling out to ComC in the future. As of right now, only certain accounts have access to it, but it will be coming fully online sometime in early December for everyone to use. So real solid special out of SGC. I don't have anything pulled up for this, but we should be starting to get a PSA usually does a slew of holiday specials. So we'll have to see if those start hitting sometime soon as well. Let's get into Fanatics Fest and Fanatics events and all the nonsense with that. There's been a lot of chatter this past week about, you know, the viability of Fanatics Fest. Is it even going to exist? What the hell happened to the Fanatics events team? A lot of the folks, so a lot of the stuff I saw this week was talking about like the Fanatics event teams getting slashed. Most of that stuff actually happened the week before. The big one, and he's now announced it on Instagram, that I had heard more than a week ago. He just announced it this week. I didn't want to say anything until he went public with it. Was EJ, Dynasty EJ over on Instagram. He was in charge of dealer relations for Fanatics events. So he brought on and was kind of the liaison for the dealer side of things. He got let go and a number of other folks as well. But that actually happened more than a week ago when I first heard about that. I did get, interestingly enough, a survey from Fanatics Fest about purchasing tickets and or not purchasing tickets, but about the upcoming show in 2025 and like when tickets would go on sale, you know, when or how or what promotions would entice you to buy tickets to attend the show, like all that sort of stuff. I did end up filling that out and giving them some feedback on stuff. I think that went out to anyone that attended. last year's show, so you may have gotten something similar this past week as well. I have no idea if 2025 Fanatics Fest will happen or not. And to be quite honest, I'm not sure if Fanatics knows it's going to happen one way or the other or not at this given point in time. As I mentioned in last week, Fanatics events as we know it, or as we briefly knew it, seems to have been gutted. The normal card show or the ancillary events, I believe, are toast. Those are not going to happen anytime in the near future. They are, if anything, going to focus on these tentpole events. And this could be a whole video in amongst itself on kind of where things went sideways, but it just ultimately comes down, to put it simply, they put the cart before the horse. They ran a marathon before they even started crawling. And I think it kind of blew up in their face in a lot of different ways to kind of build this thing. They went right for the 3-ring circus out of the gate when maybe they should have just started small and built themselves up. They tried to cheat the line. And say what you will, Fanatics Fest New York had a lot of issues, but they had a lot of good stuff as well. I had a great time attending that show, even with the issues that I had around the VIP badge, their overall level of organization, and things along those lines. I thought it was a very good card show. The dealers were really good, and there was a lot of cool stuff to do there. Even if it all wasn't necessarily targeted to me, I could see the larger picture. But if they lost 10 to 15 million on it, like has been reported, they're going to re-look at that situation. Them losing money on that show isn't exactly shocking news. Ruben said before the show even started, they were going to lose money on this show. I'm just guessing they lost more than they thought. The problem is they have lost the trust in the attendees. Even if they announce this thing, I'm not probably going to book travel because I don't trust them anymore to actually run the event. And that is ultimately the problem. I think they would be smart if they kind of went back to square one and started a little bit smaller and went from there. But like I said, maybe we'll talk about that in a separate video. Next up, Topps Chrome update release week. It's all sold out on the website now. As of Friday afternoon, evening, mega boxes were still in stock. Hobby boxes were about 200-ish, maybe a couple bucks over that. Jumbos were, I think, 400-ish, maybe a couple bucks over that. I logged on a couple minutes after they released. I was actually going to get a case of hobby boxes. It was like $1,400, $1,300. I just thought it would be fun to rip a whole case. They were already sold out. So I ended up getting one jumbo box and one hobby box. I have 4 mega boxes that actually arrive later today. Not 100% sure what we'll do with those content-wise yet. I'm debating maybe just ripping 2 for an individual video next week, and then maybe going live one day next week and just ripping it all in one big, huge live stream extravaganza. We'll see. It kind of depends on how the week goes and how some things shake out. But I will have 1 jumbo, 1 hobby, and then 4 mega boxes. And I also have a stack of MVP buyback stuff to cash in, probably about $200 to $300 in MVP buyback stuff. So I will add something else to this, whether it's Breaker's Delight or a jumbo or maybe a couple of hobby boxes. I don't know yet. I'll have to see what my LCSs have once the MVPs are formally announced, I believe later this week. But Topps Chrome update is, Topps Chrome update is all the rage right now. That is what everyone is going crazy for. As of time of recording, hobby boxes are doing about $250 to $260. Jumbos are doing almost $600. Those are the ones that everyone are going crazy for. The MLB debut patches are obviously the massive hit. And I had mentioned on Twitter the other day, I was surprised the Skenes card did not have a bounty on it. It just seemed kind of surprising. Since then, 2 that I know of have come out. And I forget the name of the shop, so this is my fault. A local shop in Pittsburgh, I believe, or near Pittsburgh, is offering $250K. And then I'm going to call it I don't masterclass might be too big of a stretch, but a well orchestrated offer from the Pirates themselves came out, which is just interesting in its own right that a team is offering a bounty on these for this card. They say they want to bring the Skenes card home. It's the way that I could best describe this is it makes for a great social media post, but no one is probably ever going to accept this. I have no idea what the Skenes card is worth, but most people would rather have that, I don't know, like I said, someone's already offered 250K. Let's just call it $500,000. I have no idea if that's a good number or not, but there's already a 250K bounty on the board. Whatever the case might be, 95% of people are going to take either the bounty or send it off to auction. I saw, Golden talking up, send it his way. But the Pirates offer, like I said, is a great marketing piece because odds are this is not going to be accepted and it's no skin off their back to throw this out there and they get the buzz around it. So they are offering 2 season tickets behind home plate for the next 30 years. Devil's in the details on this one. Are we talking row 1 or are we talking upper deck behind home plate? That is a wide margin of seat selection there. Someone said that they value this at $2.5 million, so I'm guessing it has to be pretty good seats for that evaluation. But I don't know. Also, am I allowed to sell the tickets? Are they transferable if I die? There's a billion questions you have to ask around that. Softball game for 30 at PNC Park, plus coaching from Pirates alumni. Spring training experience like no other. Private tour of the Pirates City at their spring training complex. Meet and greet with Paul Skenes. 2 Paul Skenes autographed jerseys. 2 batting practice / warm-ups with the team. And another unique experiences at Pirate City and Lemcom Park. The other thing was, after this offer came out, old Livy said, let's raise the stakes. The person who finds the card can sit with me at a Pirates game in my suite. So you get 3 hours of alone time with Livy. Like I said, I don't think anyone would accept this offer over just taking a straight cash offer or sending it to auction to see what it gets. But it is amazing social media content. It would be interesting to know if Fanatics gave them a little wink, wink, nudge, nudge on throwing an offer out there to kind of churn the marketing, because this has gotten a ton of play. Between this in its own right, let's see, what did this get on it? This has 5.6 million views. And what is the Livy tweet got? 12.6 million views. Kind of sad that Livy can outdraw the Pirates in regards to views. Actually, that might not even be updated because I've had this tab open for a little bit to remember to record it for the video. But there is the Skenes debut patch in all its glory. I'm not taking this offer for when. The other thing with this too is you have to live near Pittsburgh to make any use of this. So, like I said, great social media post, great marketing, but I don't think anyone's actually going to accept that offer. Curious for your thoughts on that one. Would you take the offer or are you selling that thing? I have to imagine most people are going to go for cash money. You could buy a lot of Pirates tickets with whatever you sell the card for and pick whatever games that you want. Just a reminder, PSA rolled out some new nonsense yesterday in regards to declared values and how they're looking at those. The biggest impact does seem to be the shipping side of things. We'll see if they have a solution for that or not. You can reference yesterday's video if you want more information on that if you missed it. Okay, let's dive into market movers. A link in the description down below. You could get a free trial and 20% off for life if you use my little code that's down there. Dig around with your own versions of charts and graphs to your heart's content. First up, baseball, and we're starting with one Mr. Skenes. We haven't checked in on his prices in a hot minute, and I was kind of curious to see how stuff was doing, especially the newly released items. Skenes first Bowman Currently sitting at around $1,200 in a PSA 10. Currently sitting around 400-ish, $500 in a PSA 9. Really hasn't moved a ton. This is going back about 3 months into August. Has kind of settled down. It spiked way up, obviously, during the midsummer, early summer, and then kind of came down as the season went along. Not that he did anything wrong. He still played extremely well, but that's just kind of a nature of the beast as we kind of see this stuff. Next, what I was curious about is how are Skenes autos from Topps Chrome Update doing? Refractors currently doing between $700 and $900. Obviously, some wiggle room there. Base ones doing about $650, and asterisks. Most of these prices are probably going to come down as more and more product gets ripped and opened. That is just kind of a nature of the beast and kind of how these things generally seem to work. The 30th anniversary auto or 35th anniversary auto going for about $300. I actually like this one quite a bit. I'm a sucker for that year because I bought a lot of that year at Topps. I think that's 89 Topps. I bought a boatload of that as a kid. So that one kind of has a soft spot for me. And I actually just think it's a nice clean design. And then you can see a bunch of different parallels here. Golds are obviously going to put a premium on it because it's gold, but I will say a couple of the gold autos that I saw looked stunning with the color match. So pricey color match on Skenes. On his normal refractors, they're doing about $40. X-fractors are doing about, actually regular refractors are doing about $30 to $40. X-fractors are doing about the same, a little bit more than that, $30 or $40. These prices will come down as well as things settle in. So, and then obviously everyone will be rushing that stuff out to grade to the old PSA machine. In other baseball news, just taking a peek in at Juan Soto prices on his first Bowman autos. The PSA 10, you could kind of ignore this number. There was one rogue sale. It was a best offer, buy it now. Looks a little sus at 38, almost 3,900. There are currently a bin sitting at, and this was about a month ago too, so or about 3 weeks ago, so factor that in as well. There is a bin sitting for like low threes that's untouched on eBay, so I'm not counting that as the most recent comp. You always got to remember to check that stuff. Even if this sale is legit, when it's 3 weeks old like that, go look to see what the cheapest available is on the market, because obviously that's the new comp if no one's purchasing that card. So for the purposes of this, we'll just kind of call it like high twos, 3K-ish for a PSA 10. The BGS 9.5 is currently doing about 1.6K, and the PSA 9 is doing about 1.3. All the rumors and speculations are out this week on where he is going to end up going. It just, to me, it sounds like the Yankees are not in play. Maybe I'm wrong on that. I'm no Buster Olney or Peter Gammon, so what the hell do I know? We'll see where he ends up going. Obviously, it'll be a interesting shift to see what his prices do depending on where he goes, and how does it impact other players on that team. I've seen some wild rumors out there about teams offering him stuff, and depending on where he goes, it could also bounce up other players on that team as well. Could also hurt his prices too. Let's switch over to football. Anthony Richardson is back, baby. Brad Beeman, you are back. PSA 10 silvers and autos and optic hollows. I ran this out 90 days, so this takes us back to midsummer. He is seeing a tick up in prices. More on that in a second, as this is something we commonly see during the football season. The prices start extremely high in the preseason in the summer. They crash the first month or two of the season, and then things start to pick back up as things happen. Now, in this case, it was a benching and him coming back. I don't think Anthony Richardson is still that great of a quarterback, but you could clearly see, obviously, massive losses, down basically 60% across the board, 60 to 70%. The Silver Prism's down almost 60. The PSA, this is the PSA 10 Silver Prism Auto, down about 65%, and his Optic Hollow 10 down about 67%. If you shorten things up, that dark blue line is a Silver Prism. It got down to the 130s, 125 while he was on the bench. Now that he's announced the starter, it's back up to 175 and trending in the upward direction. Now, what he does on the field will make and break where it goes from here. In other news of players continuing to go down, we've been checking in on Stroud kind of weekly here. He is back down to $450, down about 50% from his off-season prices. Now, I hinted at it earlier in regards to this is pretty standard. Player prices start high, go down, and go up again. We are seeing a little bit of that with two former Golden Boys of the 2020 class, Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert. Their silver prisms, you can see, you look at the 90-day chart, were obviously way higher in the summer. They kind of cratered. Burrow specifically. This got all the way down to 1.2K in early October. It started the preseason at just under 2K and now is back up to 1.75. Same thing with the PSA 9. It kind of railed behind or laid behind a little bit longer, and it has not upticked as much, but it is starting to uptick now slightly. PSA 10 Herbert, same thing, light blue line. This was at 1.2K early in the season. His stuff bottomed out about a month ago, 3 weeks ago, at 650 for a silver, and now it is back on the upswing, back up to 825. This is a classic pattern that we see. The prices start extremely high. The player either struggles or sometimes plays perfectly fine. In Burrow's case, he was putting up good stats, but the Bengals weren't really winning. Things looked a little bit weird. In Herbert's case, they were running the ball a ton early in the season, but he has continued to play really, really well as the season has gone on. They're allowing him to throw more. Burrow, Jamar Chase had the monster game a couple weeks ago against the Ravens. The narrative starts to shift. The prices overcorrect or get down too low, and people start buying back in again, raise things back up based off of their performance in season. But there almost always is that weird correction period at the beginning of the season. Typically in football, you usually find of the baked in price guys, you usually find your best deals in the middle of the season. Now it's going to be a little different for every player. You're never going to time the market perfect. Only one person gets to do that typically. But generally speaking, we see this pattern rinse and repeat itself over and over and over again. It's just more specific when you're in season because you need the player to perform well to lift it up, especially guys that were baked in. Now, guys that had no expectations coming into the season, we see their stuff shoot off to the moon right from the get, like Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, Jared Goff, etc. Let's finish up looking at a little bit of basketball. The NBA season is well underway, and we are seeing some significant price movement on a bunch of players. Now, just like we talked about with the NFL, the guys seeing the biggest gains are the ones no one was talking about in the offseason. It's not Victor, it's not Luka, it's not Tatum. It's not those guys that already are super expensive. It's the forgotten about guys. This stuff's going back 90 days, which takes us back into the mid to late summer, well before the season started and well after all the NBA offseason nonsense. And spoilers, we are going to see a lot of my and your 14-0 Cleveland Cavaliers on this list. Of course, I was going to include some Cavs on my basketball talk today, and I didn't have to force it. The charts and graphs did the work for me because they are some of the highest performing players card price wise so far to start this season. We have Donovan Mitchell Silver PSA 10 up 40% over the last 90 days. This thing was all the way down to $150 at one point in time, and we are now up to $235. RJ Barrett Silver Prisms up 60%. $65 for a Silver Prism PSA 10. At one point in time, that was a monster card. Darius Garland up 40% on his Silver Prism PSA 10. Evan Mobley up 140%. He has looked fantastic this NBA season. Benedict Mathern up 42%. A lot of that is a little bit more recent as he's been putting up a couple huge games the past couple weeks. And then random one, but he is having a really good season, especially the last few weeks as well. One Mister, one of the better names in the NBA, Grady Dick, up 140% in a PSA 10. Now, one thing to kind of note here, especially on Mathern, on Grady Dick, even Evan Mobley, pop counts on their cards are relatively low. The Mobley one is actually a little bit interesting. I'll need to do a little bit of a deeper dive on that. That seems really low for a PSA 10 pop on a 2021 silver. I wonder if there was issues. I'll be curious to see what the gem rate percentage is on that compared to other people in that class, because that just seems like a low overall pop for 10s. Maybe it's one of those, could be one of those cards that have the infamous, print issue on it or something like that. I'll have to do a little bit more digging on that one. That one just stood out to me because that pop count's very low. But yeah, NBA players are off and running. There is a lot of people that have gone up in value, and this list is actually quite a bit longer. I can flip over to the main list that I pulled some of this data off of. You can see Jaylen Brown's up about 27%. Norman Powell is up a ton as he's been playing a bigger role with the Clippers. Tyrese Maxey is up, but he just got hurt, so I don't know that I expect that to stay. Bilal Coulibaly's having a strong start to the season. Alfred Sengun's had a couple monster games. Jalen Suggs has looked really good since Paolo's gone out. So on and so forth on this list. Tyler Hero has been playing out of his mind. He's only up about 36% because no one really cares about the Heat right now. But it's not all doom and gloom. There are card prices. I know. Contrary to what content creators and my thumbnails and others will tell you, some cards do actually still go up. It just tends to be the guys that don't have a lot of stuff baked into them. Victor's prices haven't really moved much. He had a monster game this past week. He's really been turning it on the last few games. He had a 50-pointer. So we'll see how things shake out with him, but I didn't pull any of his stuff for this week. That is all I got for you, boys and girls. As always, curious for your thoughts and comments down below. Should be an off-centered live stream this week. Like I said, maybe I will go live and rip some Topps Chrome update at some point in time this week, or if not, I'll just use it for pre-recorded video, though ripping live is always entertaining. And don't forget, big weekend. My and your Cleveland Browns face off against Dustin's New Orleans Saints this weekend. No side bet on that. We should have been on top of that, but we weren't. Jameis Winston revenge game, folks. Let's get it. That's all I got. Catch you boys and girls on the next one. Peace.